The European Slave Story, Episode 6, Women and Children in Europe's Slave Systems. Their stories are rarely told, not because they were rare, but because their suffering was quiet, domestic, and hidden behind walls. While wars captured headlines, women and children carried the weight of bondage in silence. In Europe's slave systems, women were valued not only for labor, but for control. Enslaved women worked inside homes, farms, and workshops. They cooked, cleaned, sewed, raised children, and served their masters daily. Many were taken specifically because they could be controlled more easily, isolated from public view, and exploited without witnesses. For many women, slavery meant constant vulnerability. Abuse was common and rarely punished. Their bodies were not considered their own. Children born to enslaved women often inherited their mother's status, becoming property from birth. Families were formed not by choice, but by circumstance, and they could be torn apart at any moment. Children were among the most profitable victims. They were easier to transport, easier to train, and easier to break. Young boys were forced into farm labor, apprenticeships, or domestic service. Girls were raised to serve households, often never knowing freedom. Many children were sold multiple times, losing their language, culture, and identity with each transfer. In medieval Europe, orphaned children were especially vulnerable. Poverty, famine, and disease left thousands without protection. Many were taken in by households not as family, but as unpaid labor. The line between servant, serf, and slave was thin, and children stood on the weakest side of it. Even in systems labeled serfdom, women and children had fewer rights than men. A serf woman's labor belonged to the Lord, just as her children's future did. Marriage, movement, and work were controlled. Generations were born into the same conditions, learning obedience before they learned hope. Yet even here, resistance existed. Mothers taught children stories of freedom. Women hid food, slowed work, protected each other when possible. Survival itself became an act of resistance. These quiet acts rarely appear in history books, but they mattered. They kept humanity alive where the system tried to erase it. Europe's slave history is often told through wars, laws, and empires. But the truth lived in kitchens, fields, and nurseries, where women and children carried the burden of bondage every single day. Their suffering built wealth, sustained households, and maintained power, while their names disappeared from record. In the next episode, we will explore resistance, escape, and rebellion, the ways enslaved people across Europe fought back, fled, and